I think the question is the timeline for success. I've said before, I think we will execute on this operation as long as it takes. The way we will measure success, obviously, is by violent crime and the reduction of that crime. We've just begun. We do know that this is going to last for months, and we have just begun. In fact, I will tell you that it will last forever, because what we believe will happen is the numbers of law enforcement agents from different agencies will change depending on the mission at the moment. It'll be mission dependent. What we find this week will inform what we do next week. But we know that the surge that has taken place currently, that surge will diminish at some point. But what we learn from that surge, the collaboration that is happening right now between the U.S. Marshal Service and the Memphis Police Department and the FBI and the DEA and the Tennessee Highway Patrol, that collaboration that in some ways has never been this effectively executed, that collaboration will be here from now on. So this operation in some ways may never end. It'll just change in its scope as we execute through the mission. And obviously the goal is to minimize, if not approach, the elimination of violent crime in the city of Memphis. Yes?
Governor, of the more than 600 arrests made by the task force large number of approximately 130 more administrative warrants served by ICE agents. What is your message to immigrant families, including those who are legally because they are oppressed?
Yeah, I can't speak to the particular numbers. I have big sort of overall numbers. So 850 violent arrests. And we've said all along that this is an effort that is targeted at violent crime in Memphis. That is the goal. That's what the effort is. That's headed up by the U.S. Marshals. It is focused on removing the criminal element in Memphis. If those criminals are illegally in this country, then ICE becomes involved in that process as well. That's how it's working. It's spearheaded by the U.S. Marshals. We're attacking the criminal element, going after those that are known violent criminals. And if they are in this country illegally, then ICE becomes part of the operation.
So
Yes.
With those ICE arrests, however, there's an impact that goes far beyond the numbers. There are people, Latino immigrants in this county, in this city, who are legal residents, yet they're afraid to go to work. Their children have to go out for their parents to go do groceries. The likelihood of these people are being affected every day when they are not violent criminals. They are just people trying to go out, feed their families, and you say we all love the city, but those people aren't feeling the love right now. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think that what I want every Memphian to know, every person that lives in this city, is the goal is to remove crime from the streets. That is the goal of what we're doing here. If you're here illegally and you commit a crime, then obviously ICE is going to be involved in that. But the effort, the goal, the purpose is to go after crime in this city.
So can you expect that to see the unintended consequences that are taking place in this community? Again, people who need to feed their families are afraid to go to work to feed their families.
Well, if they're not a criminal element, then they shouldn't be afraid. That's the goal of what we're doing here. Right, sir? That's the goal. We're trying to make the criminal element be removed from the street so people aren't afraid to go out, so children aren't afraid to go to a playground. That's the goal of what we're accomplishing here. And that's the message to everyone that lives in the city. Yes? Well, we said they wouldn't be armed, but it would be mission dependent. And that the decision whether a National Guard member is armed or not is determined by the task force for what their job is on the ground. And I honestly can't speak to the detail of that, but the role of the National Guard in this mission is to support the law enforcement agencies that are here. It is to provide support for the Tennessee Highway Patrol, the Memphis Police Department, the U.S. Marshals Service. Whenever there is a presence of the National Guard, it frees the operation of a law enforcement officer with the Memphis Police Department, for example, to pursue the violent criminals. They're functioning as a support operation, and it's a force multiplier for law enforcement agencies on the ground.
Now, Harley, when you talk about this operation full reference or work, is that a long-term plan to sustaining whatever that comes out of the task force and they're gonna like on this too? How do you sustain the violent criminal or violent crime is going down? How do you sustain that long-term so people can actually
Yeah, that is a really important component of what we're doing here. Even in our meeting this morning, we talked about that we should work from the very beginning to document and understand the shortfalls that surface as this operation begins. So as we begin, we learn where there are shortfalls, where there are gaps, where there are cracks in the foundation of law enforcement across the city. And as we learn about those, we create a strategy for the future. The reason I think this will last forever is because what we're learning about how agencies can collaborate, because these law enforcement agencies are here to stay. The surge in numbers may not be here to stay, but the agencies are here to stay. We have resources of the FBI and the DEA and the U.S. Marshal Service at our disposal, just not with the numbers that we have right now. When we learn at the local level how to coordinate these resources going forward, it'll forever change the way we police in the city of Memphis, which means that it'll forever change the way we approach violent crime in the city. I do believe that it's a turning point, it's a historic moment in the way that we will police and be able to make certain that violent criminals are found out and are taken off the street. You want to add to that?
Yeah. So in addition to changing the way we police, when we start talking about sustaining, we got to talk about the things that are going to change the trajectory of the lives of the individual. We can't ask people to put guns down without putting something else in their hands. So this task force, if you look at the list of agencies, it was not just FBI, DA, ATF, and those law enforcement entities. There are also federal agencies like HUD, so investment in housing. There's agencies like Health and Human Services, where we can get more investment in mental health services. The thing that prevent people from moving into a life of crime are the investments that are going to help us sustain the work that we're doing right now. We want to get violent criminals off the street, and we want to prevent future generations from going that route. And the way that we do it is we identify the areas where we can make those proactive investments to make sure we sustain all of the gains that we achieve during this moment.
When it comes to how disheartening is it to know that the officers within EPD just recently reprimanded for their drag race incident that happened? I guess, how do you trust law enforcement organizations to deal with this? It may not be considered a life crime per se, but how disheartening is that?
Yeah, I mean, law enforcement officials, officers, they're people, and they make mistakes. And so these officers didn't do the right thing in that moment, and we'll deal with that through the processes that we have in place. But it should not erode confidence in law enforcement. We know that our officers put in a lot of work to protect this community, and we support them. All right.
Going back to the number of arrests, how many of these were warrant-based arrests, and how many more warrants do you have outstanding? Considering there were 1,000 warrant arrests made in various operations so far this year.
I can't speak to the specific number of warrant arrests because I don't know it off the top of my head. However, I can tell you that a lot of the work that's underway right now is working with our organized crime unit, working with our task forces within MPD to go and execute those warrants. We know that before we started this operation, there were about 10,000 felony warrants in our community. And we want this effort to help us get those individuals off the streets because we know that those are the significant drivers of violent crime in our community.
We have time for a few more.
What work is being done beyond arrest warrants in terms of turning down and containing organized crime in the city by the council?
What work beyond?
Beyond just arresting people on outstanding warrants?
There are significant investigations that are underway right now where they are looking into the networks of criminality. So it goes beyond just an individual arrest today, but what is the root of where the source of that criminal activity is coming from. And so those investigations take longer term. So what you're seeing now is really the tip of the iceberg. These are the arrests of individuals that have warrants or things that happen as a result of traffic stops. But the goal is to really get to that root of violent crime, and those things take time. And so I know that those teams are working on those types of investigations right now.
Okay, last question. Anybody not got one?
Governor, I think one of the most visible aspects of the task force is Memphis and the traffic stops. Could you connect for us how those traffic stops relate to this effort of starting violent crime?
You know, one of the first ways that streets become safer is when we make the street itself safer. The traffic that's on the street, the drag racing that's been prevalent throughout this community, the times on the outer loop where the interstate was shut off, and so that folks could have their way on the interstate. We all know about that. The shootings that occurred on the outer loop in the interstate. Everyone knows that when the traffic on the streets is out of control, then the crime inside the streets and in the neighborhoods it's elevated. It's allowed to operate without fear of retribution. So the very first thing to do is to get the streets under control. That means traffic stops. That means stopping people that are speeding, stopping people that are not licensed, that don't have correct licenses on their cars because they may be stolen vehicles. You know, there are dozens of stolen vehicles every month in this city. And the way you alleviate that is find out who's driving the cars that don't have licenses, who's driving vehicles that don't have rear lights, and they're operating their vehicles too quickly. That's really where you start with beginning to bring peace into the community. So that's the operation that's headed up by the Tennessee Highway Patrol. It also frees up Memphis Police Department to move into beyond those neighborhoods.
That's all the time we have.
Let me take one more. Yes, go ahead.
So, Shelby County is always had more burden when it comes to the courts. Last year, we lost one of our criminal courts. How do you think the state can help our local and state courts operate more when there is this kind of burden? We're talking almost 900 new arrestees. How can the state help effectuate and make sure that the criminal justice system does not get back?
Yeah, I think that is a longer term question that we're dealing with right now. So there are short term things that the state Supreme Court will do to alleviate the burden, and that's happening already. Judges to alleviate the short term burden. I think in the long term, if we're going to talk about this being a permanent solution for Memphis, then we will look legislatively and otherwise at strategies to make our court system, not just in Memphis, but all across the state, more complementary, more collaborative, working together, and to be able to use resources from other places in the state where they're needed, in this case right now in Memphis, but that will give us a pattern for how to move going forward. One of the most encouraging things about this to me is what we're going to learn about our court system and how to make it run more effectively, about agencies and how they can collaborate more effectively, and about where crime element really is and how to get it off of the street. I actually think what's happening in Memphis, and we talked about that in our meeting this morning, it could be a model for the country. You know, there are a lot of cities that would only hope to have the resources that are currently available in Memphis. There are a lot of cities that could only dream of having the kind of crime reduction that Memphis is having and what we anticipate will have as it escalates the number of arrests and the number of violent criminals taken off the street, and what that might mean for this city and its transformation. There are a lot of cities that would hope for that transformation in their communities. So I think it might be a model. We certainly hope so going forward. There's a lot to learn. There's a long way to go. It's very early. There are things that will surface that we will address as they come forward, but really encouraged by the first start, and there will be a continued, there'll be a continued effort in partnerships and communicating to the people in Memphis what our hope is for their city. It is a remarkable place, and I believe it's going to be a safe place. Thank y'all for being here today.